Thank you very much. I'm Lukas Biewald. I'm the CEO and co-founder of Weights and Biases. And we started Weights and Biases as 3 people and 1 investor back in 2018. だけど、25年前、私は交換留学生として日本に住んでいました。それ以来、私はいつも日本と特別つながりを感じています。だから私たちの会議のためにここにいられて特に幸せです。How did I do? Oh. And we started Weights and Biases with a goal to serve ML practitioners, which I know are most of you in the audience today. And the thing that we wanted to do for ML practitioners is to make great tools for them. Because in software development, there are lots of amazing tools like GitHub or CircleCI. And in AI development, back in 2018, there were no great tools. And the reason that the software tools didn't work for AI development is because software development is fundamentally a linear process. You gradually improve code step by step. Whereas in AI development, the fundamental unit of work is an experiment. Maybe you try a prompt, or you try a hyperparameter, or you try a new model, or you try a whole new RAG flow. In all of these cases, most of the things that you try don't really work. And so in software development, your code is your IP. And every organization knows this. They save their code, they take care of their code, they value their code, they monetize their code. But in AI development, the code really isn't your IP. It's the learning that's your IP. But in most organizations, that learning is lost. And that's what we set out to fix, because reproducibility, which means saving your learning, is incredibly hard, but it's also essential for successful AI development. And when you have reproducibility, when someone new can join your team and see all the experiments that you tried in the past and get up to speed in minutes rather than weeks, you can iterate faster and you can deploy better models faster. And that's always been what we've cared about at Weights and Biases. And we knew in order for anyone to use our tool, there are a few principles we had to adhere to. And maybe the most important one, I think really the secret key to Weights and Biases' success, is we made it incredibly easy to get started. We used to say it was 6 lines of code to get started, and I still couldn't get my friends to try Weights and Biases, no matter how much I begged them to try it. They said, it's too much work to install a new library and try a new library. So we got it down to 5 lines, then 4 lines. Now it's 2 lines. We say it's 60 seconds to get up and running because you have to type all of this. But honestly, with Cursor or GitHub Copilot, you should be able to hit the tab key once and have the installation immediately. 1 second to get up and running, I hope. Maybe just as important, we wanted to integrate with everything. It's interesting to reflect on what the popular libraries were in 2018 when you get started, the integrations that were important to us back then. Maybe some of you have heard of TensorFlow. Not sure? Is that too mean? Hopefully no Google people in the audience, sorry. Now there's different tools that are important to integrate with. But the important point here is that everyone knows that the tools and the frameworks that you're using today are not going to be the frameworks you're using a year from now or 2 years from now. So we wanted to make sure that all of our users knew that we were committed to integrating with everything out there, including competitive products. Because we were always on the side of making the developer successful and not locking them in to the Weights and Biases ecosystem. And then the most fundamental thing that we did was we tracked everything that our users did so that they could go back and see their work. It sounds simple. In some ways, it is simple. But we always viewed this as the core of Weights and Biases' value proposition. Today, this is our AI developer platform for ML engineers. It has many more components, but they all stick to the same thesis and principles that we started with. I want to talk about 3 personas that we serve today, because now ML engineers have branched into multiple types. And the first one is the foundation model builders. Any foundation model builders in the audience? I know we have a few. Well, as you can see, it's rare. It's rare to be a foundation model builder, but it's important. So for example, Lillian Wang at OpenAI was an early user of weights and biases, and we've always been committed to making these people really happy, even when there's not very many of them, and when it's hard to serve them. And we're super proud that almost all the foundation model builders use weights and biases. And I think all of the major foundation model builders in Japan use weights and biases, including Sakana, NTT, CyberAgent, and others. Also, the popular foundation model builders in San Francisco, like OpenAI and NVIDIA and Llama, were built using weights and biases. It's not a huge market, but it's a really important market to us. And it is not easy to serve foundation model builders. When we started, we thought people might try thousands of experience. Maybe they would have hundreds of metrics. Now, our typical foundation model builder customer or autonomous vehicle customer has millions of experiments, maybe billions of experiments. So those are the rows. But also, the metrics have expanded just as fast. People don't track hundreds of metrics. They track thousands of metrics or tens of thousands of metrics per run. This kind of table that's a core part of our product, we used to load the entire table into memory for every user. Obviously, that's not possible anymore. And inside each of those runs, each of those points in that table, there's metrics with millions of data points. And especially with reinforcement learning, it's important to see every single data point because the outlier is the most important thing that you want to see. So if you sample on the server side and you aggregate on the client side, you're not going to have happy customers. So we've been working really hard behind the scenes for the past 2 years just to keep up with the foundation model builders. And since there's few of you in the audience, I'll move on. But if you want to talk to me later, I'd love to tell you about all the things we've been shipping. I feel very proud of this quote from OpenAI that said, "I think weights and biases brings us a certain level of sanity in all the chaos as the team grows." If we had a billboard, I'd love to put that on our billboard. Now I want to talk about the ML engineers. Are there any ML engineers in the audience? Maybe people in Japan don't like to raise their hand. Is that possible? At least we have a few in the front row. This has been our bread and butter at Weights and Biases. We've always been passionate about serving the ML engineers. And the thing that's most exciting to me about what's happening to ML engineers right now is the amazing new applications. In San Francisco, we have autonomous vehicles in the street that you can ride every day. For years, this seemed like a dream. Now it's possible. We see an explosion of pharmaceutical use cases. 5 years ago, we had no pharma customers. Now we work with most of the pharma companies because machine learning has gone from a research topic to table stakes in drug discovery. Also, agriculture and manufacturing has been completely transformed by machine learning, just in the 5 or 6 years that Weights and Biases has existed. We're really in every industry today. This is the coolest thing about running a company like Weights and Biases is we see use cases everywhere. We used to talk about the fraction of the Fortune 500 that's in our addressable market that's investing in machine learning. Today, I don't think there's a company in the Fortune 500 that's not investing in machine learning, that's not seriously investing in machine learning for a real purpose. I want to talk about breakthrough applications here that really work. Some of the highlights of our customers: industrial farming. John Deere uses cameras now in many of the tractors that they're shipping around the world that detect where weeds are and spray herbicides to kill just the weeds. This saves the farmers lots of money. It makes the food potentially healthier. It puts less toxic chemicals in the environment. There's really no downside to this technology, so it's been flying off the shelves, and it really works. Roche has been discovering real new drugs that handle real diseases that our friends and family have using machine learning, discovered with machine learning, simulated with machine learning. Fraud detection has completely changed. 5 years ago, we had no financial service customers. Now, almost every financial service company uses some form of deep learning to find fraud, and this allows new kinds of transactions and cheaper payments than were ever possible. Satellite data has exploded in popularity, and the number of use cases here could fund an entire company. I love this quote from Woven, who's many of you are here today, a longtime customer, who said that Weights and Biases has given us 10x velocity. 10x velocity makes me feel really proud. If it was even a 10% improvement, I would feel like that's a big impact. 10x velocity is amazing. And we love helping Woven move forward the state of the art of deep learning. Now, another big shift that's happened in the time Weights and Biases has been in business is the explosion of fine-tuning. Fine-tuning used to be a research topic. Now, 25% of our ML customers are doing this every day. And I expect that to grow. There's almost no case where you want to build a model from scratch for a language application these days. You should almost always be fine-tuning something out there. But the biggest change has been the explosion of LLMs. We remember when ChatGPT launched because it affected our servers. But the change that we saw was suddenly software developers can now do machine learning. As long as I've been in the business, we talked about the democratization of machine learning. What kind of applications would be possible if everyone had access to AI? Because ML engineers were incredibly expensive, it was limited to domains that had huge amounts of value for companies, but there was a massive long tail that was underserved. Now, every software developer can access APIs, and in most cases, do machine learning applications better than custom models could ever do. And we are so passionate about helping with these GenAI use cases because we think that this is the future of AI. There are far more software developers than ML engineers or foundation model builders. So this is good for the world, and it's good for us as a business. In San Francisco, we've seen an absolute explosion of generative AI adoption and emerging use cases. Near our office in San Francisco, just one block from it, there are tens or maybe hundreds of applications of AI funded by local VCs. Even coming to Japan, we see an astonishing number of generative AI applications. Even in enterprises you might not think of as the most forward-looking companies are making huge investments in AI today. So this is really exciting. But we feel a little worried because everyone we talk to, from a one-person startup to a 100,000-person bank, tells us the same thing. This Gen AI is easy to demo and hard to productionize. Everyone says this. Everyone, including me, has seen an astonishing demo and thought, ship it, let's go. What's the problem? And then not seen it perform in production. And I think this is the biggest risk to the AI industry because you see really bad product failures. There's something about Gen AI, something about its ability to demo well that makes executives, especially CEOs, incredibly stupid. And we see products get shipped that no one in their right mind should ever ship. We see Humane AI's PIN launched with no useful applications. And you scratch your head and you wonder, how did this possibly get manufactured? And this is a visible example, but in every company we see the same thing. And this is how we're going to enter another AI winter if we don't do something. So the most important slide of this presentation for any of you software developers or anyone involved in Gen AI is our 4 best practices for successfully deploying AI. Even if you don't use weights and biases, we still strongly recommend these 4 best practices. And they're so simple, you might think this is boring, but most of our customers do not do this. The number 1 is build an evaluation framework. This might seem obvious, but when I talk to OpenAI, they tell me most of their customers don't have an evaluation framework. And they know this because every single day, OpenAI says their customers reach out and say, your model got worse today. And they say, why do you think it got worse? And they send 1 example or 2 examples. And this is what happens, because every single change that you make is going to make something worse and something better. Some of our customers openly on our podcast, Gradient Descent, talk about testing by vibes. What is testing by vibes? Could that translate into Japanese? I'm curious. Testing by vibes means not testing. And when you do that, you can quickly get something into production, but then you can't iterate. And when you can't iterate, you can't change anything. So there's many, many ways to make the models cheaper. You can do lighter models, you can do routers, you can do better architecture, you can do shorter prompt. So many ways to save money on your LLMs. Very few people do it because they don't have an evaluation framework in place to make that happen. And now the other thing about an evaluation framework, assuming you have an evaluation framework, which puts you in the 99th percentile of the customers that we talk to generally, the evaluation framework is not going to be the same as your end user experience. Whether your end user is you or a colleague, or you have a B2C application with a consumer, a real consumer. So we strongly recommend, once you have that evaluation framework, find a way to incorporate end user feedback and feed that back into your development process. So how do we help? We've actually built a second product that we call Weave. So our first product, Models, is for people building or fine-tuning models. And our new product, Weave, is for people using those models to develop Gen AI applications. And building with Gen AI is a new paradigm. We don't support everything, but we try to support the biggest pain points. We can't write the prompt for you, but we can help you evaluate if your prompt is doing well. And actually, if you're evaluating if your prompt is good or not, you can use LLMs to automatically iterate overnight and generate you a better prompt with a technology called Prompt Reader that we support. We are trying so hard at weights and biases, and I know most of you are also trying to eliminate these barriers that are getting in the way of Gen AI getting into production. So we help you deliver quality with a visual eval comparison. We help you roll out new LLMs with confidence. We help you trace the quality, cost, and latency to see exactly what went into your RAG, exactly what your RAG pulled from your vector database. And then finally, we help you collaborate securely. And again, it's the same thing with ML as with Gen AI applications. You're doing all these experiments. The thing that you're learning along the way, the thing that your Gen AI team is learning is your IP here. The best practice for prompts, the right temperature for your LLM. If you're not saving all of these things and not saving your evaluations, you are letting your IP walk out the door when your developer leaves. And at least in America, there's very high turnover of AI developers today. Here's a few screenshots of Weave. You can visualize the calls, save and version your data sets, run these evaluations in real time, and then incorporate user feedback. So we've built a system that you can customize to actually put user feedback in front of your customers or your users. And when you do all this, you can compare your models in one place, and you can make smart trade-offs between cost, throughput, accuracy, hallucination rate, safety, etc. So what use cases do we see for this? Well, one is something we did inside of Weights and Biases, which is we built a wand bot that crawls not only our internal documentation, but external GitHub issues and reports, and can give you user feedback. We've learned a lot through this use case, and it's really helped Weave become a powerful tool for real-world use cases. this is the one advertising slide I have, which is you should try Weave today at wb.me/weave. Please do it. We've also written in Japanese best practices for LLM evaluations. This has been a very popular white paper, especially in the Japanese market, and we'd love for you to download this free white paper. I've also been really proud of the team in Japan who's rolled out an AI model score in conjunction with Nikkei that's become the standard leaderboard in Japanese for LLM models. And we've done a similar one in Korean. So you can see on a language-specific basis, what are the best models for your application. I also wanted to celebrate the fact that we now have 30,000 users in Japan. This is so exciting. And we actually have exponential growth in the Japan and Korean markets. So we hope that you'll try Weave today and enjoy our product. Thank you very much.